I still remember how heavy the air felt that afternoon, not just because I was 7 months pregnant, hauling groceries up 3 flights of stairs, but because somewhere deep down, something inside me already knew something was about to break. I had just finished a long shift at work, waddling my way through Trader Joe's with swollen ankles and a grocery list that was way too ambitious for how exhausted I felt. Our apartment was on the third floor. No elevator, just endless steps that mocked me with every climb. And when I finally managed to wrestle the last bag to the kitchen counter, heart pounding, sweat dripping down my back, I looked over at my husband, Alan, and that's when it happened. There he was, sprawled out on the couch, headset on, playing Call of Duty like he had no care in the world. Empty Monster cans littered the coffee table. I barely got the words out, asking him if he could help with the bags, when he waved me off, saying he was in the middle of something important. Apparently, that important thing wasn't me, wasn't the mother of his child, wasn't the life we were supposed to be building together. I bit my tongue. Again, I told myself maybe he's just stressed. Maybe he doesn't realize how much I'm struggling. I shouldn't have made excuses for him. Because when I finally collapsed into a chair, fighting to catch my breath, he turned to me with this disgusted look on his face and said it. Jesus, you're getting disgusting to look at. You better lose that weight fast after the baby, or I'll find someone who actually takes care of herself. And then I heard it, laughter, coming through his headset. His friends, they heard it too. He wanted them to hear it. For a second, I just sat there, frozen. Like maybe if I didn't move, if I didn't react, this wouldn't be real. Instead of crying or screaming, what I think he expected, I smiled, walked over, kissed his forehead, and told him I needed a shower. The confused look on his face would have been funny if my heart hadn't been shattering. In the shower, with the water running so hard it almost burned, I let myself cry, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry tears, clarity tears. Because standing there, forehead pressed against cold tile, I saw everything for what it really was. This wasn't a bad day. This wasn't a one-time thing. This cruelty, this selfishness, was who he was. And I was about to bring a child into this, a child who would either learn to treat people this way or believe this is all they deserved. No, just no. I got out of the shower, threw on my comfiest maternity dress, and told Alan I needed some air. He barely glanced up, mumbling something about grabbing him a soda on my way back. I grabbed my hospital go bag, the one I'd packed months ago because I'm a planner, my laptop, my important documents, and I left. No big scene, no final fight, just a quiet, heartbreaking exit. Right now, as I sit in this tiny hotel room 20 minutes away, my hand resting protectively over my belly, I keep asking myself, am I overreacting? Am I crazy for walking away at 7 months pregnant without a real plan, without a home? But then, I remember the look in his eyes, the way he said those words like he was commenting on the weather, the way he let his friends laugh at me. And I know I'm not overreacting. I know I'm not crazy. I'm waking up. I don't know exactly what comes next, but I know one thing for sure. I am never, ever going back. Because my baby, my daughter, deserves to grow up seeing what strength looks like, not cruelty. The first night away felt unreal. I sat there in a hotel bed that smelled like bleach and stale air conditioning, staring at the ceiling while my phone lit up over and over again. Alan was calling, texting. First, it was confusion. Where are you? Then irritation. You're being dramatic. Then guilt. Come on, I was just joking. You know how the guys are. And somehow, the part that hurt the most, one of his first texts wasn't even about me. It was, where are the leftovers? Not where are you? Are you safe? Just where's my food? I curled around my belly that night, whispering to my daughter, I've got you. We're going to be okay. But truthfully, I wasn't so sure. I was scared, terrified actually. How do you leave when you're 7 months pregnant, your whole life tangled up with someone else's? Our lease was in both our names. Our finances were somewhat tied together, even though, thank God, I had always kept my paycheck going into my own private account. We were supposed to be a team. We were supposed to raise this baby together. I lay there in the dark, wondering if I was making a huge mistake. Maybe all couples went through rough patches during pregnancy. Maybe I was hormonal, like he always said, but then I'd remember the casual cruelty in his voice, the laughter from his friends, the way he didn't even flinch while I struggled up those stairs, carrying groceries for our family, and the doubt would shrink just a little bit. By morning, I had a plan, a shaky, half-formed plan, but a plan nonetheless. First, I called my sister Anne. I don't know what I would have done without her. She picked up on the first ring, and when I sobbed out the story, she didn't tell me to go back or to calm down. She just said, "I'm coming." Anne lived about an hour away, but she promised to be there by noon with snacks, hugs, and a fresh set of eyes to help me figure this out. While I waited, I sat by the window, hand on my belly, watching the cars go by. Normal people, living normal lives. Grocery runs, coffee dates, kids squabbling in the back seat. I wondered if they knew how fragile everything could be. How a single comment, a single moment could tear your world in half. When Anne arrived, she wrapped me in the kind of hug that made me finally break down. The ugly crying kind, the kind you can't stop once it starts. We sat cross-legged on the scratchy hotel bedspread, eating vending machine M&Ms and making a list. Options, resources, steps. It was overwhelming. The lease, the car, the finances, Alan's unpredictable behavior. We decided the safest thing to do, for now, was for me to go back temporarily. Not to stay, not to forgive, but to pretend, to gather my things, to quietly, carefully build an escape plan without tipping him off. The idea of going back felt like swallowing broken glass. But what other choice did I have? Alan wasn't the type to take rejection well. If he found out I was planning to leave, he could make things 10 times harder, or worse. So I practiced my smile in the hotel bathroom mirror, practiced sounding normal. "Hey babe, I'm sorry. I was just hormonal. You're right, this pregnancy has been hard on both of us." It tasted like ash in my mouth. But if faking it for a few weeks meant securing a safe future for me and my daughter, I'd do it. Before checking out of the hotel, I made a list on my phone. Find divorce attorney, move paycheck to new private account, gather important documents, quietly pack essentials, find safe apartment, record evidence of behavior, plan exit day. I was living a double life now, pregnant by day, escape artist by night. When I finally walked back into our apartment that afternoon, Alan barely looked up from his game. No hug, no apology. Just a grunted, "Did you bring food?" I smiled, the fakest smile I've ever worn, and handed him the takeout bag. And right then and there, I realized he really didn't think he'd done anything wrong. The next few weeks would be the hardest of my life. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something underneath the fear, determination. I wasn't just leaving for me anymore, I was leaving for her. The day Alan left for his dad's birthday was the day I started breathing again. It had been weeks of pretending. Smiling when I wanted to scream, cooking dinners while fighting the urge to throw the plates across the room, sleeping next to him while silently counting down the days until freedom. I had built my escape plan carefully, painfully. Anne helped me find a small 2-bedroom apartment on the ground floor. Nothing fancy, no granite countertops or huge walk-in closets, but it was safe, it was clean, it was mine. My sister, my friend Mia, and, surprisingly, Alan's younger brother Rory all agreed to help me move. Rory had reached out after witnessing one of Alan's outbursts. He said, "Alan's my brother, but what he's doing to you isn't right." That had nearly broken me all over again. The simple kindness of someone actually seeing it. On the morning Alan packed his overnight bag, kissed my cheek, and joked, "Don't do anything crazy while I'm gone," I smiled sweetly and wished him a good trip. He thought he had me wrapped around his finger. He had no idea. The second his car pulled out of the parking lot, Operation Exodus began. Anne was already pulling into the driveway with her SUV. Mia arrived minutes later with a borrowed moving truck. Rory showed up with gloves and a determined look on his face. I stood for a second in the middle of our living room, the scene of so many humiliations, and just breathed. This was it. We worked like a machine. First, my personal items, my clothes, baby things I'd purchased myself, furniture that had been mine long before Alan ever showed up in my life. We moved fast but careful. I had made a detailed inventory list weeks earlier, labeling what I would take and what I would leave. When it came time to pack Alan's precious gaming PC, the one he bought using a fraudulent credit card in my name, I hesitated. Rory noticed. "You don't have to take it if you don't want to," he said quietly. But I shook my head. It wasn't about the computer. It was about accountability. It was about sending a message. You don't get to steal from me and walk away like nothing happened. By nightfall, most of my belongings were out. The apartment looked hollow, like a stage after the actors have left. We ordered pizza, again, but this time it wasn't the sad kind. We sat cross-legged on the floor of my new apartment, surrounded by boxes, laughing with pure exhaustion and relief. That night, after everyone left, I went back one final time to the old place. Alone. I deep cleaned the apartment, not for Alan, but for myself. I wanted a clean ending. No messes for him to blame me for. No excuses. On the kitchen counter, I left. Divorce papers, already filed, just needing his signature. A folder with all the evidence of his financial fraud and emotional abuse. A USB drive with recordings of his verbal attacks. A short, simple note. Find someone better from your couch. I already have. I didn't take everything. I left the furniture we bought together. Not because he deserved it, but because I didn't want anything that had soaked up the toxic air of our marriage. I stood in the empty living room for a minute longer. There were no more lies left to tell myself. No more pretending it would get better. I wasn't just running anymore. I was choosing something better. For me, for my daughter, for the life I still had time to build. As I locked the door behind me for the last time, I whispered, "Goodbye." And for once, I meant it. The first night in my new apartment, I slept with one hand resting on my belly and the other curled around a cheap throw pillow I had bought just because it made me smile. It wasn't much, just a little two-bedroom place with mismatched curtains and squeaky floors. But it was mine. No monster cans on the coffee table. No headset laughter echoing through the walls. Just the quiet, comforting hum of a new beginning. I wish I could say it was easy from there. It wasn't. Single motherhood wasn't part of the life plan I had scribbled in my journal at 17. No one dreams about moving furniture at 8.5 months pregnant, about finalizing divorce papers alone, about facing labor without a partner's hand to squeeze. But every time the fear crept up, every time I wondered if I was strong enough, I felt her, kicking, stretching, reminding me she was there. I wasn't just doing this for me anymore. I started therapy, online once a week from my new slightly wobbly kitchen table. My therapist specialized in relationship trauma and pregnancy. She told me something that stuck in my mind. You're not breaking your family, you're breaking a cycle. Those words became my mantra. When Alan tried to reach out, through texts, emails, even friends, I ignored him. Every time he shifted between rage and fake remorse, it only cemented the truth. I had made the right choice. I spent my days setting up the nursery corner in my second bedroom, folding tiny onesies, arranging baby books on a shelf I built myself with an Allen wrench and way too much swearing. I bought a crib, not the expensive one Alan had insisted on months ago just to show off, but a simple, sturdy one. One that felt like us. Me and her. Strong, resilient, ready. The baby was measuring a little ahead, and my doctor warned me she might come early. In a way, I was relieved. The thought of waiting felt unbearable. I was ready to meet the tiny human who had given me the courage to walk away. 3 weeks after moving in, 5 days after officially cutting off all communication with Alan, my water broke. Of course, it happened at 2:02 a.m. Because why not? Anne rushed to my apartment, half dressed and half awake, and we made it to the hospital with just enough time to breathe before the contractions hit hard. Labor was intense. 19 hours, 3 hours of pushing. So much screaming, I think I broke the nurse's hand. But then, at 6:22 a.m., with the sunrise painting the sky outside the window, they placed her on my chest. And everything else, the fear, the loneliness, the heartbreak, it all just fell away. She was perfect, 10 tiny fingers, a head full of dark, wild hair, and a cry that sounded like defiance and hope all rolled into one. I named her Lily. Because even in the darkest places, lilies bloom. I didn't tell Alan I was in labor, didn't text him when she was born, didn't share those first precious moments with anyone who hadn't earned the right to be there. The next day, following my lawyer's advice, I sent him a formal email. A photo of Lily, not of me, and a simple update about her birth and health. No fanfare, no drama, just the truth. His response? Predictable. First rage, then accusations, then guilt trips. I handed it all over to my lawyer without responding once. Because the old me, the me who would have second-guessed, who would have apologized for protecting herself, she wasn't here anymore. Sitting in that hospital bed, holding Lily against my chest, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. It's been almost 10 months since that night I walked out of our apartment with nothing but a hospital bag, a laptop, and a heart full of fear. And you know what? I'm still standing. Actually, I'm more than standing. I'm living. My daughter, Lily, just turned 6 months old last week. She's sitting up now, giggling at everything from the ceiling fan to my terrible attempts at singing lullabies. Every time she smiles, it feels like a tiny stitch pulling my heart back together. Motherhood is nothing like I expected. It's harder, yes, but it's also 1,000 times sweeter. The first time she wrapped her tiny fingers around mine, I knew. Every late night, every moment of doubt, every ounce of loneliness. It was all worth it. The divorce, messy as expected. Alan contested everything. The apartment contents, the custody, even my old car that I bought years before we met. He painted himself as the victim, telling anyone who would listen that I had stolen his daughter, ruined his life. But my lawyer was a shark, and the evidence I'd quietly collected during those dark months spoke louder than any tantrum he could throw. I got primary physical custody of Lily. Alan has supervised visitation, 4 hours every other weekend, though he's already missed most of them, citing everything from band rehearsals to being too tired. At first, it hurt, watching him prioritize gaming nights and beer runs over his own daughter. But then, I realized it was a blessing. Lily deserved consistency, not chaos. She deserved love, not obligation. Financially, I'm stable. Not rolling in cash, but between my job, careful budgeting, and the child support, thank you, legal system, I'm making it work. I even started a little savings account for Lily. Nothing huge, just enough to someday help her chase a dream that isn't tied to someone else's approval. Physically, my body looks different. I have stretch marks now, a C-section scar that runs like a soft reminder across my belly. I'm about 15 pounds heavier than before, and you know what? I love it. Because this body carried me and carried Lily through the hardest year of my life. It deserves softness, it deserves kindness. Sometimes I catch glimpses of myself in the mirror. Messy bun, under eye circles, baby food smeared on my shirt, and I smile. Not because I look perfect, but because I recognize the woman staring back at me. She's strong, she's stubborn, and most importantly, she's free. Alan still tries to claw his way back into my life sometimes. Random emails, late night texts from new numbers. The last one was a blurry photo of our wedding day with a pathetic caption, "We could have had it all." I didn't reply, didn't even feel tempted, because we didn't have it all. I gave it all, and he squandered it. I'm done mourning the potential of a man who never existed beyond my hopes. These days, my mornings are filled with sleepy snuggles and clumsy baby giggles. My nights are spent reading stories to a tiny human who already owns more of my heart than anyone else ever could. And for the first time in a long, long time, I'm happy. I'm not saying it's all sunshine and rainbows. There are still hard days. Days when Lily is teething and my back aches and the loneliness creeps in like an old, unwelcome friend. But even on the worst days, there's peace. Because I chose myself. I chose my daughter. I chose better. Sometimes, when I rock Lily to sleep, I think about that moment. Standing at the top of those stairs, 7 months pregnant, carrying groceries alone while the man who was supposed to love me laughed with his friends. It used to haunt me. Now, it fuels me. Because that was the moment I realized I deserved more. Lily deserved more. And no matter how terrifying it was to walk away, no matter how messy, how uncertain, how painful, it led me here, to this life, to this love, to this second chance. If you were me, if you had been standing at the top of those stairs, heartbreaking, hands full of groceries, soul begging for someone to see your worth, what would you have done? Would you have stayed a little longer, hoping it would magically get better? Or would you have packed your dreams into a suitcase and chosen yourself, even when it felt impossible? I'd really love to know, because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear this. You're not crazy, you're not overreacting, and it's not too late to save yourself. It's never too late to start over.